This Geekster Media production starts now.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Geek, the podcast where we dive into the vibrant and ever-evolving world of geek culture. Whether you're a seasoned fan or just curious about what makes being a geek so special, join us as we explore everything from comics to movies, gaming, tech, sports, and everything in between. Each episode will bring you insights, interviews, and the latest news to fuel your passion and expand your horizons. So grab your favorite fandom and let's embark on this geeky adventure together. I'm Michael Canetti, and this is So You Want to Be a Geek.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of So You Want to Be a Geek. And we're getting geeky about dance today. And I have two fantastic guests of the Royal Dance Center in Babylon, New York, to talk about dance and give me, a girl dad, an education on things that I know very little about and I am always overwhelmed with. So I have Rosa, the owner of our studio here. How are you, Rosa?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And I have Kayla here, who is one of their dance instructors. Hi, Kayla. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I have so many questions to begin with, but I want to first kind of get both of your origin stories into how you got into dance before we get into the studio itself. So, Rosa, how did you start with dance? Tell a little bit of your backstory as well.
When I was younger, I would always teach my dolls at home little dance routines. I got into dance at a very early age. I've been performing for over 30 years. I became a dance educator at 16 and have been doing that for over 20 years and have owned my own studio for over 10 years. So it's always been a love and a passion ever since such a young age.
And Kayla, what about you?
Well, actually, funny story. The reason why I'm in dance is because of my pediatrician. I was born with flat feet, and he said that dance would help correct it. So, and like as soon as I heard him say like dance, it was all I would talk about until my mom put me in a studio, and I just fell in love with it. Yeah.
So, where do we begin? I have a ton of questions. We'll say go through as many as I can. But so, what was the inspiration for you to open your own studio?
I've always had a love for teaching for dance. At my previous studio, I was working many days a week, and it was just time for me to go on my own. My director and former trainer had passed away. It was more of a wake-up call that life is short. Many other things going on in my life that the cards just aligned. And I felt like it was the perfect time to take a leap. I always wanted to own a studio in Babylon Village. I grew up in the city, so Babylon Village is the closest thing to that New York City life. And just everything just aligned the way it should have. So I took the leap at the perfect time.
That's awesome. And when you first started out, like what would you kind of do? Was it just like recreational, or did like you've expanded now to like a competition team, and did you a couple recitals a year? How did that sort of grow?
So we started recreationally, also with a competitive team, but very, very small our first year, and just built both over time. And then last year we opened our second studio and separated into recreational and competition. When I first opened it last year, some recreational and competitive were at both studios. So it really just depends where the demands are on our numbers at the time. But it's been great ever since for over a decade. And we're so fortunate that we've expanded to this point.
Yeah. It's cool. Now, I mean, you've been around for 10 years. So that means, we're in almost 2025 now. So 5 years ago when COVID hit, how did you manage to keep people coming back and growing out from there?
So that was definitely a challenge. We were only on Zoom for 6 weeks. So most studios went on Zoom at that point. And I said to myself, our dancers are not going to last on virtual dance. So we built an outdoor studio. My parents were fortunate enough to lend us their backyard, which is a larger piece of land than where we live in the village. And we turned it into outdoor studio. We used yoga mats. We did small groups. Everything was to code. And it really, really, really brought a sense of getting children out and into that normal sense of life. But in July, we reopened, but it was great. In the meantime, we also were able to do our annual recital in August. We did multiple mini shows. Lots of approvals. I spent my entire summer getting approvals to be able to do that, but there was no way we could disappoint the children. Everyone had their costumes and everything ready, so we made it possible.
That's cool. That's awesome. Now, I also feel like by doing that and sort of setting up this intimate backyard setting, it also helped grow the community of your, like the people that are, like if they wanted to stick with it through that and go through like visiting your backyard and like growing that kind of thing, I'd noticed just from coming in and out of here, like people love coming to here, and I feel like you built a strong community. It's followers and like just students and families as well.
Thank you. Yes. I've lived in the community for some time, so that also does help. But our numbers did double after COVID. We definitely had, yes. When we reopened in July, we were fortunate enough to double our numbers. And then I started looking for a second studio as we expanded. But I really think it's also because we kept that consistency during a time when people really needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as an instructor, like how do you find, because each child or each student is different. So how do you find that the way can tap into their strengths and help them achieve their goals, but also get over the adversities that might have challenged in doing certain things?
Well, I grew up with an older cousin who has Down syndrome, so I've always been able to like communicate well with him, and I've just always had like a connection with him, and I feel like that helps me a lot as like an instructor, because certain kids you don't know what's going on with them sometimes, so I feel like that really helped me be able to tap into like all these different children, and I've always liked teaching kids. I like, I don't know, like kids are just like, it just like gives me a reason to like express like certain things that you can't express teaching like older kids or like adults. And it like brings out like the inner child that like I never really get to.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, you're a teacher. Are you also going to school to be a teacher in your life?
Yes, I am.
Wow. So, I mean, I think in a way, having that teaching background in the academic world helps relate to the students in the studio, because you can sort of compartmentalize that leadership, the experience, but also getting them to buy into what you're trying to convey teaching. Am I assuming that correctly? Yeah.
There's definitely a correlation. Almost our entire staff has a degree in education or is pursuing a degree in education, and that definitely helps. I also am a certified psychologist as well. All of that background definitely plays a role into understanding the development of every child and the needs of every child, and also to be able to develop programs that are appropriate for every child, which is always our goal.
So how do you balance teaching full time or running a business full time? Like, do you divide yourself in half? It's a doper.
Honestly, it's consistency, it's time management, and it's my staff. I'm very fortunate. My husband has a saying that my staff is organically grown, which is the truth. For example, Kayla's been with me for over 17 years. Most of my instructors have been with me since day one, since they can walk, and they've grown up with me in the studio, previous studio that I've worked at, and also have developed now into an instructor. So I feel like when you have that relationship and you have that reliable staff, anything is possible. I would not have expanded if I did not feel confident in my staff, because it's a lot to handle at once. But it just works. We all help each other. Everybody helps each other and communicates, and we just make it work.
What made you decide to expand and have the competition side of things? Like, what would be, catalyst for that?
So I always wanted a business where I had both sides. I grew up as a competitive dancer. It was always something that was very important to me, but I always wanted to also cater to the dancer who just wanted to come for fun once a week. So when I opened the studio, I wanted to have both sides. And I always remind my instructors they also teach both sides and that there are two sides of dance. So I just wanted to be able to challenge those who wanted that further education in dance and wanted to compete competitively. And so far, it's been great. Our team expands every year.
Now, what types of dance do you focus on at the studio? I know there's so many different versions. I know a very popular one is like doing contemporary or doing ballet. Like, what do you guys focus on?
Well, we offer lots of different kinds of classes, mostly like jazz, tap, ballet. We have a Broadway jazz class, so it's like a mix of like theater and like tap, jazz, stuff like that. For like the kids who are more into like theater, singing, stuff like that. What did I say, ballet, lyrical for like the mix of ballet, contemporary, hip hop. It's big for our studio. Everybody loves hip hop here. Yeah, we like lots of different kinds. So anybody who wants to just take a ballet class can just take a ballet class, or if they're interested in both, we have combo classes. So there'll be like a jazz and hip hop class. We have acro, so like gymnastics. Kids are into that. Like a combo ballet tap for a little mix up there.
So, dance is funny, right? Because, like, it. I feel like I'm very big into yoga. I feel like dance and yoga have similar foundations and fundamentals to it to help in other aspects of things. Like you hear a lot of athletes who do ballet or theater performers that are coming to do tap classes or whatnot. Like it it touches on so many different things that you're like a person doesn't need to be like, I'm gonna be a rockette, but I love being in theater. I love being a performer. I love just the mental and physical demands that dance requires that parlays into so many other things. And I find that so cool. And I even noticed it during with the recital. We were just like, you were tapping into different student skill sets. There was the one girl that was doing flips and others that are doing splits of it. And you were able to sort of identify the strengths that these young ladies have and tap into that, which I think is a very cool thing. And I love that. It's really, really cool. When you're meeting somebody for the first time, and let's say a mom or a dad, and my child wants to get into dance, I have two left feet, but how do I help encourage them into pursuing their passion?
Well, first, I always ask for the background of any dancer to find out if they have any prior experience so I can ensure that they're properly placed. So, our classes are not by age, they're by age and level, which is very different than other studios because if a dancer, let's say, is 7 or 8, but they're more advanced than, let's say, someone else is 7 and 8, then why can't we push them ahead into a different level? So, I'm very carefully level our dancers into ensuring that we meet their needs. But first, I get their prior experience and their backgrounds. And then from there, I have them do trial classes and not just one, multiple. They can do as many as they would like. And then from there, we navigate. And I always ensure that I'm here to see them and see what best fits that child. Are they happy in those classes? And we take it from there. So it's really overall meeting the child's needs.
Cool. Now, from what you said before about, most of your instructors are homegrown. So that I think is a big deal because of the fact that one of the things that I liked that you said was that most of your instructors are homegrown. So that means that you've sort of built a formula. And even though an instructor might expand on it in their own way, but there's a foundation there that each one of them shares so that as students go from level to level, they know, okay, this is the formula, this is the way we do things here. How did you sort of develop that methodology?
Several staff meetings. We talk about curriculum all the time and what does this dancer need to go to the next level. It's just that constant communication and really doing outlining more so before that September starts. We really sit down. We level all of the dancers before that registration starts in May. So after our annual recital, we register for next season. So the constant communication. I don't have every dancer myself, so I don't know every dancer as well as my instructors know them inside the room. But it's really that communication across the board. And sometimes it's a certain genre that they're more advanced in than others. And so we level every student. And just like I said, that communication is key.
Sure. So what particular classes do you teach most often?
I am more of a tap and jazz person. I was professionally trained by 2 Rockettes. Those were my mentors. And that's just more my style. I can teach anything, any class. I've choreographed dances for every single genre of dance, but tap and jazz are definitely my favorite.
Definitely jazz, and I like hip hop and probably some ballet too. Yeah.
I also like that I saw all the instructors actually performing with suits and you even had your own costumes and everything with that. What's the mindset behind that?
So you will see in our show in May, which is very different than our winter show, because our winter show is a prep to our annual recital to get all of our dancers comfortable with the stage, and we just do the finale with the students. But in our May show, the teachers perform a teacher's routine, and you will get to see every teacher highlight their strengths in a particular scene, and we create a mini production. So it's really just highlighting our strengths, but also showing the audience that we can do that as well. And this is how we teach your children, and this is how we perform, because you need to be a performer and also to be a teacher.
That's awesome. It's cool. I'm excited for that. That'll be fun. When you made the decision to open your own studio and be like, how am I going to manage this teaching full time and running a studio? What was that first parlay to that like?
I had everything set before I'd opened the studio, mapped out. I'm very OCD and very organized. Who I wanted in what position. Several conversations took place. So I think because everything was so organized before I even opened the doors, it was really not a difficult transition. And like I said previously, I was working in my other studio so much that this is the only life that I know, is going from one place to the other and the constant go, go, go. So it's just who I am. I cannot sit still for five seconds.
That's what I've heard. What is a competition event like?
Well, I've been competing since I was 8 years old, and I'm now almost 19. So, competitions, they're a little stressful, for both the parents, the teachers, the kids dancing. But it's all worth it at the end because it's such a good experience, and it like makes dance seem like, because a lot of people don't consider dance a sport. They don't think you're not competing, you're not doing this, you're not fighting for like a win. So why would it be a sport? Competition dance, to me, dance in general is a sport, but competition dance is like the Olympics of regular sports. Because you're like fighting it, you're competing against each other with using your different skills. Some kids might have more tricks than you, some kids might be more flexible than you, but really stage presence, all of that is very important in competition. And it's just like a fun experience. Sometimes they do like different, like they'll do like a spirit day, and like you come in like studio spirit, or like we have a competition near Christmas sometimes. So like you'll come in like Santa hats and like goofy outfits, and it just makes it really fun.
And it's leveled. So the dancers get to see, okay, if I'm a level 1, let's just say there's typically 3 levels. What does a level 2 look like? What do I need to achieve to get there? What does the level 3 look like? So it kind of shows you the beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
And every company is different. They all have different judging scales. So we constantly memorize new things. But overall, it forms a bond with the dancers and the instructors that is, it's just amazing to watch.
And you guys come to like the pancake breakfast with the Lions Club. And that's where my daughters, like 2 years in a row, saw your dancers come in. And my kids were like, I want to do that's man. It's super cool because there's so much of that like stigma about like competitive dance because of like the reality shows that are real. And then
Oh, they're real.
oh, wait.
They are definitely real. I've seen some definite episodes and situations that remind me of those, but I always just put it out there. Actually, in my contract, it says, because all of our competitive dancers are contracted through our studio, if you're looking for the reality show drama, please don't sign the contract because I'm just not that person.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So one of the things that I'm always curious about is like the culture behind dance, Brett, but because people that get into dance love it and like it becomes a part of that. And how you create that culture here in the studio that people want to keep coming back here.
I think first, once you relate to that passion in dance, and the reason why most people love it is it's a way for you to express yourself without judgment. And that's really important to anybody, and it's accepting of everybody. But for us, it's just, I always encourage this in my instructors and myself as well, and remind myself, like, the energy that you bring and your spirit that you bring to the room is the energy that your dancers are going to have. So if you're instilling confidence and you're giving them motivation and you're dancing with them and you're happy and bringing that aspect, your dancers are going to have the same result. Obviously, some dancers need more of it than others, depending upon their background and their home life and situations. But again, I always remind my instructors, you set the tone.
Now, as an instructor and as a teacher, every once in a while, you'll see a student that like they're struggling to like, let's say a backhand upbringing or whatever, something like that, or a particular routine. What happens, or what do you feel when you see a student, the light bulb goes on, they have that like aha moment, like I figured that out. Like, how do you express that sort of joy for that when they figure that out?
Well, for me personally, when like a student of mine gets a trick that they've been working on for a really long time, it's just like, I just feel joy inside because it's like I've been helping them work towards something that they really, really, really wanted to do. And when they finally get it, the joy on their face is just like, it's $1,000,000 to me. It's just like the best feeling in the world, being able to help kids pursue what they want to do. it's a really good feeling.
I've seen her scream of joy.
Oh yeah,
She's
jumping up and down, everything.
The excitement is real.
Yeah.
Honestly, we ask them to do it again and we record it if we can so that they have it and we have it. A lot of times with our little ones, it's hard. They're in their first few years of dance and I'll say to the parents, like, record me on the TV and, and all of that. So we try to encourage like the parents to record us. So this way they can practice with their dancers at home to allow them to achieve that success. But I know a lot of our parents were worried about the Christmas show. They were like, my dancer's been out for a few weeks. They've been sick. It is a difficult time of year. And I just reminded them, we're sending our assistants on. It's not about precision. That's the May show. This is about getting comfortable with the stage. Let them have a fun time. It's the holidays. Let's bring joy to everybody and remind us what the holidays are about. And really, that is the goal of our winter showcase.
That's cool. It's awesome. Because I teach at a college. I'm a professor, and I love it when I see a student that's really trying to get something and they have that moment, or like you see a kid get excited on a stage and they're like, wow, I performed for my little family or whatever. And they get that, like you said, it's worth more than money. It's worth $1 million. You know, just such a nice, special feeling that it just sort of like, wow, I love that. What do you think is sort of like the future of dance and how it's going to grow and progress? And because there's so many shows and things like that, and there's such more social acceptance to being cool now and being a sport and not just being like, oh, dance is just, something that people do, but how do you see it growing?
I think it's going to continue to grow in all directions. So, for example, we're at a competition. It's usually 1,000 routines a weekend. It's sold out. It's like looks like Times Square, and I'm trying to buddy everybody up so we don't lose anyone. That's definitely expanding that world itself, because either the competitive side and or the reality shows, I'm sure it all plays a factor. The recreational side definitely continues to grow as well, as we're developing new programs, but not just myself, all other studio owners are developing new programs as well. So both sides are continuing to grow, and I really do feel that it's going to continue to grow.
What's your favorite part of dance? Or even the studio, or what do you love?
So I truthfully love both sides because I am a math teacher during the day. I love the numbers part, the business aspect of it, and I love the teaching part. But my ultimate favorite part is really inspiring, whether it's the students, the staff. Inspiring everyone to be the best version of themselves is my favorite part of the whole thing.
My favorite part about dance is being able to like choreograph things to weird, people would consider weird music. I love music. I'm a music education major. So teaching kids what certain beats are, how to decipher all of that, making up choreography or helping kids come up with choreography to music that people would consider not typical dance music is one of my favorite things about dance.
One of the things that I always... Everybody has insecurities or things that they're sort of shy about or sort of like they struggle with on a day-to-day basis. How do you help these like young ladies and students overcome those insecurities and they fear of like being on stage or making a mistake? And how do you help them sort of manage this sort of anxiety?
I think it's that communication piece and telling them past stories. So for example, I will share one which is a little unrelated about motivation, but getting dancers to only bring water to the recital, let's just say. So we have a grapefruit juice story, which is very real, but been altered over time, about the white costume and the dancer who drank the grape juice instead of the water and ruined her costume, and how do we overcome that challenge and why we do certain things. So I think it's just relating the fears to real life and educating them in stories and things that have happened. I've shared personal stories with them about myself. I know Miss Kayla's done the same thing, and it's really just getting them to relate. But we also do a lot of motivational speeches. So we're not only educating in choreo and steps and movement, but we're also educating in motivation and getting dancers to feel secure with themselves. But when I see somebody struggling, which I obviously have seen in the past, like a dancer on the side of the stage, which has been so nervous and so anxious to come on stage, I just remind them at the end of the day, this is all for fun. This is all for fun. Everyone came to see you for fun. And even if it's not correct, it doesn't matter. You have to have fun. I also tape off the first row, if you notice, and the winter show and the recital as well. Because when you're on stage, you can't see it. It's all black. So you think you're performing for yourself, which helps those dancers who are so insecure, and you can only see the first round. So don't allow anyone to sit there.
How do you provide little kids feedback on what, so they don't make a don't hurt themselves, I should say. Like you say, how do I negotiate that sort of conversation with a little kid? Say, hey, try doing it this way so they don't get injured or run into somebody else. But
Well, I teach an acro class for like 2, 3-year-olds. So sometimes I can get a little scary. So, but we put out the mats so they're on like a safe surface. We don't do anything too crazy. Like these little kids aren't doing back handsprings or anything. But especially with like forward rolls, backwards rolls, handstands, they can all be dangerous. But myself and my student teachers always are helping the kids, making sure that they don't get hurt. If something were to happen and somebody were to like just fall on their knees instead of their feet, it's nothing too crazy. But I especially like give a visual of how it's supposed to look because I know a lot of kids. I myself am a visual learner, so I know that that helps a lot with like picking things up. So if a kid is doing a forward roll, I'll explain to them that they can't fall on their head, and I'll show them you have to bend your arms, like stuff like that. So a lot of visuals really helps, especially with the younger kids.
now, how do kids take feedback from judges at a competition, and how do you help them receive that? That could be sometimes hard to hear for a little kid or even for an adult.
So we have a dress rehearsal before we go to the first 2 competitions, and our teachers give feedback to all of the dancers, whether the routines are ours or not. So we kind of set them up for that. And I tell them, every judge that's judging you at a competition, they don't know you. It's all perspective. So you're going to get multiple angles. And when one judge says can contradict what the second judge says, which also happens to be the case more often than not. So you have to understand all sides, and then together we make a decision how we're going to modify this for our next event. But we do it in a private setting. So we get our critiques about like a few days after our event, and we sit with our dancers. We listen to them, just that routine and the instructor. We take notes, we talk about it, and then we modify anything before our next event. And it works out really well in more of a private setting rather than a larger group. And the dancers are really accepting of it, but that's also a conversation that I have with every parent before they sign up for a competitive team. Your dancer has to be able to accept feedback, and we will work on that, but we need your help with that. So getting the parents on board is also key with that.
But that also helps with their confidence growing up as they get older, right? Because, like I said, everyone's got insecurities. Everyone's been picked on for having the wrong kind of sneaker on or whatever. But if you, at a young age, start receiving constructive feedback and know how to listen to it and grow from that, it'll help you sort of be a stronger, more independent person. And like you said, a type A personality. It gives you that confidence to be like, okay, I don't care if somebody's picking on me at school, because when I'm in this space, in this studio, all that stuff turns off because I can be me in that space, right?
So a lot of my older dancers wrote in their Christmas cards to me. It's nice. My staff writes me all personal messages, and I do the same to them every year, about it being such a safe haven for them. And that's so important for me to see, because that's what I wanted. This is your safe haven. This is your home. This is the place without judgment. And this is the place where you get to be anything you want to be.
I couldn't have wrapped that up better by sometimes saying nasty. Where can people find you as over here?
So we are on Facebook, we're Instagram. We're going to work on rebuilding our TikTok. It's been a while. We did that more during COVID, but we definitely have to bring it back. Our website, I think I covered.
What's your Instagram handle?
So it is at Royal Dance Center, but in between each word is a
underscore.
Thank you, an underscore. Yes. And our Facebook is at Royal Dance Center Babylon. Our TikTok as well. And all of it can be found on our website. You can click contact us and it goes right to our email. We also have the remind service, which, because you're on it, with all those updates, and those messages only go to myself and Miss Michelle. So
the ladies, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad I was able to spend a Monday with you both and chat about dance and get a nice little education. And I hope everybody enjoyed our episode here. You can find us on our social media at TikTok and Instagram and YouTube at SYWTDAG. It's So You Want to Be a Geek, for swiftbag.com if you want to get super geeky. Tons of new content coming out soon. Also have a T Public store. You can get some merch if you'd like. But until next time, stay geeky, everybody. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of So You Want to Be a Geek. We'd like to thank the Geekster Media Network. I'm Michael Canetti. I'm your host, producer, and editor. We hope you enjoyed the journey into geekdom as much as we did. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Switbag for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more geeky goodness. Have a topic you'd like us to discuss or a guest you'd like to hear from? Let us know. So you want to be a geek at gmail.com and stay up to date and join the conversation. Until next time, keep embracing that inner geek and remember, the adventure never ends.
This has been a Geekster Media production.
This episode of So You Want to Be a Geek is brought to you by Comics Capsules. These are a great product for protecting your comics. They are UV resistant, crystal clear, they are stackable, they fit in your regular long and short boxes. They fully encapsulate your comics with a flip top hinge that allows you to access your comics anytime you want. They'll even fit with the bag and board in the sleeve. It is really, really cool. They have this great little eye hook. I have some hanging up back there. I have some over there on display. Because sometimes you just want to display your cool comics without having to send them out to CGC and waiting and spending a fortune on getting them graded. This stuff works great. I really, really love them. You can even have like a dedicated label inside of them. They're super awesome. So our sponsor for this episode of So You Want to Be a Geek is Comics Capsule. Do you like hot sauce? I know I do. Well, one of our sponsors for this week's episode is Jablo Hot Sauce. They are a family-owned, locally produced, amazing Filipino hot sauce that was recently featured on Hot Ones. You're gonna love it. You can put it on everything from hummus to meats to vegetables, whatever you think of. They are a great company, family owned and locally produced Filipino hot sauce. If you want to find out where the punch is, check out Jablo Hot Sauce.